All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Greg Walsh. I am the City of Salem Emergency Manager. I'm going to be talking to you today just some quick tips for everyday preparedness. These are just some quick thoughts, a few things that might help as you start to become prepared at home and wherever you are. These are just some tips and tricks and some really important things to think about. So I hope you will take into consideration these items, and I hope it helps. Thank you. Let's get started. So what we're really going to talk about today is actually talking about some of these preparedness goals. So first off, always when we talk about being prepared, we talk about food, we talk about water, medication, shelter, and then as we get more prepared, we look at that 2 weeks ready concept and what that actually means here in the Pacific Northwest specifically. And then also really having that mindset, the prepared mind, and thinking about being prepared wherever you are, especially in your car. You generally drove somewhere to get there. It's not just because it was in walking distance. So being prepared that if you had to walk home, could you do it? Now, when we talk about food, first things first, what works for you? That's one of the biggest things that I always ask people when they ask, how do I get prepared? Now, you can get emergency food or camping food, and that's something that I have plenty of. I go camping regularly, so that's pretty easy for me. And emergency food, I'm the emergency manager. I have a bunch of it because I'm paid to learn how it works. But think about food that you usually eat. Do you have pasta regularly? Do you have chicken or beef or whatever it may be? Think about something that you're familiar with and are familiar cooking, and think about how you will cook that. That's one of those really important things that sometimes people prepare all of this food and they don't think about how they're going to cook it and also clean up after themselves. One of the things that we do in my home is we actually just keep our pantry really well stocked. So instead of just having one box of pasta for what we're cooking that week, we have probably 8 or 10 boxes of pasta. So that way we always have extra on hand, things that won't perish so easily and will last a while. I can't tell you honestly how many cans of soup that we have in our house just because they last so long. We have soup out of cans pretty regularly. It's just something easy for for quick dinner or quick lunch, and it's something that it's just really easy to have extras of. Also think about dietary restrictions, and not just for you, but the people that depend on you and rely on you, and pets included. Don't forget to plan for food for your pets. Now, as we talk about that preparedness in your car, don't pack chocolate bars that'll melt in your car, especially if they're sitting in there for a little while. So think about something that won't melt. Now, here's a little video of some of the preparedness food that I have, just some of the tips and tricks and little things that I'd like to discuss. So here we go. All right, so when talking about emergency food, one of the things that I always talk about is that well-stocked pantry. So here's actually just one of the buckets out of our pantry. You can see plenty of extra pasta, some peanut butter and jelly, some things that will last a long time. It's things we eat regularly anyway, so it's really easy for us to just buy an extra box or a couple extra boxes when we go to the store and just keep that well-stocked pantry. Now also, between military and MREs and camping food, I have plenty of that. That's pretty easy. They last a long time. Some camping food, when it's freeze-dried, will last 30 years, so pretty useful to have. We have emergency food, especially important because it's just a lot of bulk, pretty easy. Protein powder is a really great option. I use the same protein for working out, so when I go to the store, I just buy an extra bag. I always keep an extra on hand. Here's probably 20-ish meals in this one bag that gets me the protein and some of the nutrients that I need. Now, we use rice pretty often in our house with meals, so keeping a big bag of extra big bag of rice is pretty easy for us. As we get low on one bag and we're going to open the second, when we're at the store, we pick up another big bag of rice, keep it in kind of our dry storage. And then adding some beans to it makes a pretty big difference when you add protein to it. And then we also have hot sauce, which doing rice and beans for a long time, adding some hot sauce or even the emergency food can make a huge difference. Now, one thing that I especially want to talk about for consideration is how you're going to cook your food, whether it's a little camp stove that folds up nicely in a little bottle of gas, thinking about pots, pans, and utensils, however you're going to do that. And then actually keeping that clean. How are you going to wash that? That's incredibly important, keeping sanitary during disasters. Really easy to just keep a little bottle of dish soap on the side. Now, as far as water goes, water is also incredibly important. There is no point where you should really be without water. It's pretty easy to get a pretty standard water bottle. And anytime you leave your house, an apartment, a friend's place, work, different meeting buildings, fill your water bottle and take you with it. I have multiple water bottles, and you'll generally always see me with one because it's just a really simple way of making sure I always have water with me in any situation. Um, think about what containers you can move. That's really kind of important as you think about how heavy water gets. At each gallon is about 8.3 some odd pounds. And once you start to get to 6 gallons, you're getting pretty heavy pretty quick. So think about what you can actually lift. That's really important to consider when you're buying water containers, especially as you're trying to consider how to store them, especially if you need to carry them or transport them. They make all different sizes of containers, from having a bunch of small bottles like I have that I carry everywhere, to 1 gallon bricks that are designed to stack nicely with carry handles, 2.5, 3 gallon bricks. You look at 6 gallon containers. One of my biggest suggestions, though, is make sure that if it tips over, it doesn't spill. And try to consider if this will be in a climate controlled area. We have a lot of water stored in our house that is climate controlled. That's just part of my preparedness mind and my 2 weeks ready kit. But we also keep water in our cars. And that's something, again, I'll talk about that here in a little bit. But having water in my car, I make sure that I leave space for it to freeze. Water freezes at about 9%, so I leave about 10% of that container empty with air in it. And I cycle out my water probably every 6 to 9 months just because it's convenient. And something else you could consider is having water purifiers. Now, there's all types of different brands, whether it's battery powered, UV, filtered, compression. There's all types out there. My biggest suggestion, though, is make sure if you're getting a water purifier, it's a purifier, not a filter. It goes down to a different level. And here's a little video of some of the water that we have stored, and also some of the different water filters that I have. And when all else fails, you can always boil it. So I'll show you a little jet boil that I have. That's a great multi-use tool. And we'll talk about that here in a few minutes. So when it comes to water storage, definitely some easy ways to do it is just get large containers. I have a couple 6-gallon containers, but these get pretty heavy pretty quick. So I don't really want to carry these with me. I do have some 3-gallon bricks, and these are actually designed to stack like Legos. They make 1.5 gallons, which is half the size, obviously. And these are great to have to stack in different locations, stack in closets, make them fit under the bed quite well. And these are completely watertight, so if you tip them over, they're not going to spill. These 6-gallon jugs do spill a little bit if you tip them because of how the water or the air plunger is in the back. Now, having regular bottles of water is quite useful. Just keep a bunch of extra bottles on hand. Pretty easy. We're all used to that. It's pretty normal. Having your water bottle, again, fill it up with water every time you leave or every time you're leaving a place, so that way you have water with you. Another great option is something that can boil water. So this is actually a jet boil. It's something I've used for years for military and for camping, but a little burner goes on the bottom of it. You can boil water in a couple minutes, and then also letting water boil for about 4 minutes will kill just about everything that could be in there. Again, you still want a chemical-free or a relatively clean water source that you're going to boil, and that's kind of important for boiling water. Now, there's other purifiers. This is actually a water bottle purifier that you scoop water into the lower bottom, you put this part in, and you press it down, and it cleans all of the water up into the bottle. Great option for a mobile. This is actually what lives in my car kit. And then kind of a high volume water filter. This is from LifeStraw, which most people have heard of the LifeStraw brand before. Really great option. This is part of their project that was designed to provide a fresh family of 4 fresh water for 3 years. Really neat gravity filter. Really impressive. You can find it in quite a few places. Found this on Amazon. It was on sale for $55, so really something I couldn't pass up as an opportunity at the time. One other thing I always recommend is have a water bottle or a water container that is either easy to move, easy to lift, has a good ability, because at a certain point you may have to go to a point of distribution to actually get more water. So having a container that you can take with you, fill it up, and carry it home can be really important. Again, if you have a wagon or something with wheels, great option to put it in there, wheel it with you. Wheels makes everything so much easier.
We actually have a fold-up wagon that we keep in with our supplies, so that way we could actually stick a bunch of these 6-gallon containers in, wheel it to a point of distribution, fill up water, and then wheel it home.
Now, medications. Medications are always an incredibly difficult topic to think about, especially if you take medications regularly. You know that medication get expensive and that some of it expires, and that you generally can't get a lot of excess based on prescriptions. So this is incredibly difficult. There's plenty of ways. One of the biggest recommendations I have is to talk to your doctor and tell them that you want to be prepared. Work through the different laws around your community and different groups that may help support you getting extra medication. Now, look at how, always be right on top of refill. Try to get one, sometimes it builds over time with one additional dose or one additional day at a time as you try to get moving forward. But always try to be on time with those prescription refills and build up a little stockpile. Now, also, it's incredibly important that you have your medications written down somewhere, whether it's a digital copy somewhere, a photo on your phone, or uploaded to the internet, a paper copy with your emergency supplies, or even a paper copy in your vehicle in your little emergency kit. Now, this is incredibly important because if something big happens and the pharmacies aren't necessarily open, after a few weeks, and this gets back to that 2 weeks ready, the military response and the federal response organizations will show up with a medication and a pharmacy pack. If you can hand them the medications you take based on the dosage, the name, generic name, or whatever it may be, and you can hand that to them, they're going to be able to fill your prescriptions much quicker than if you don't have that information on hand. Again, I always recommend keeping a few extras in your car. If you travel, if you've driven somewhere, have a few days, maybe 2 or 3 days in your car. And again, that's building that stockpile. And then really, last bullet here is try to get an extended supply and keep up on prescriptions. Now, in this little video, I'm going to show you just a few little pill containers that you could have, and just kind of an example of some of the documents that I keep, or a binder that I have in my emergency kit to keep this type of information handy.
When it comes to medications, we keep a few different little pill containers for things that we daily use. Allergy medication, especially important for us and our family. And then we do have a little container that has our medications as labeled, as prescribed, which is important. Try to keep the labels on them, or keep, especially as you use them, you can actually peel those labels off, stick them on a piece of paper, and put them in a document binder. This is just our document binder. We have information for our home, between homeowners insurance, rent, property insurance, personal item, valuable item insurance, copies of our IDs, information about accounts. So that way, if we had to, we could pull this binder and we could actually access just about all of our accounts, start claims, start information that we need. But it also has our medication list in it for both us and our dog. So really easy to get a little binder, keep a record of everything, and it just makes that overall process a little bit easier in the event that something goes wrong.
So talking about shelter, shelters can be really important. This is something that we always consider because having shelter can make a huge difference in the elements. Whether it's hot, cold, rainy, snowy, having shelter can be really important. Now, this is especially if your home or apartment or your current living condition is you can't get in there, you can't make a shelter inside one of those. How do you really think about making sure you have some shelter and warmth, especially overnight, or keeping yourself out of the elements? Now, blankets and tarps are simple. That's, hanging up a tarp with some string or some bungee cords and having a few blankets, extra blankets hanging around can make a huge difference. Having tents, pretty easy solution. Car camping, there's plenty of people that camp and live out of their cars, unfortunately, but it's very easy to go car camping, and a car is a pretty secure place out of the elements that can help you keep warm or maintain some level of comfort. Thinking about sleeping bags and blankets and extra items like this, one of my biggest suggestions, sometimes some of the stuff gets really expensive, especially if you're buying a sleeping bag that you may never use. I'll be honest, hopefully we never have to use some of this stuff, but a great option for this is looking at used items. I'll go to Goodwill and find a sleeping bag that I may never use, and I'm okay with that. I'll save a bunch of money on it, and if I have to use it, then hey, at least I didn't, at least I got something. So have that as a consideration. Think about different shelter options. Whether it's if you have an RV, that's a pretty easy solution. Campers, tents, etc. I'll show you some of the tents and even just some of the tarps that I have. One of my personal favorites that's in my car kit, which we'll talk about here shortly, is actually a hammock that has a rain fly and a bug net on it. So it's just a nice way to stay dry and stay out of the elements and keep the bugs off me. So just other great options that we can show you. 2 weeks ready is a big concept that in a Cascadia subduction zone type earthquake, it's really important that we are prepared to be on our own, self-sufficient for 2 weeks. Now, this is, food, water, medication, shelter, and sanitation. And that's daunting. That's can I camp in my yard for 2 weeks without going into my house or without going to the store? That's really where we build larger preparedness kits. And I'm going to show you a video here of just, some of my preparedness supplies, how I have it organized.
All right, so really quick when it comes to 2 weeks ready, this is what my 2 weeks ready looks like. We have a whole bunch of supplies, clothing, equipment, food, we have water behind it, some military stuff because I am still in the National Guard and may have to respond in a National Guard capacity, food, little go bags, the twin bucket system for sanitation. Up top, you may not be able to see it, but we have a couple stacks of toilet paper, some paper towels, and just some other miscellaneous things, including trash bags for the twin bucket system. Over here, we also have that wagon that I talked about. This is just a great option. Again, I love putting stuff on wheels, so if we needed to fill up those containers, we could throw it on the wagon, get it filled up, and bring it home. Just a quick look at what 2 weeks ready might be. Don't forget your pets. As you can see, my big bag of pet food over there. Just really important to consider what you're going to need.
Now, car preparedness. This is one of my favorite tips to share. Being prepared wherever you are is incredibly important. One of the biggest things to think about is if I'm driving somewhere, can I get home? What are the obstacles that are in my way? How far do I usually travel from home? Is it a couple miles? Okay. Is it 30 to 60 miles? Ooh, that's a lot longer. And I really need to consider how I'm going to get there. Am I crossing rivers? Am I crossing major bridges? How would I get past that, or waterproof items? So really looking at what those supplies would be to get home. So for me, my car kit is I can camp in my car for a couple days and be okay, but it's more my get home kit because I have more supplies prepared at home. And also I want to get home to my loved ones and my pets. So just really thinking through that real quick. Think about those shoes, the clothes, rain jackets, everything else. Think about food, water, and medication for a couple days. How long will it take you to get there? One of my favorite recommendations, though, is using an empty suitcase. Now, I have been in the military for 14 years. I can easily throw a backpack on and walk miles at a time and be okay with it. It's just training, right? It's something I've done for years. But honestly, most of my stuff is in a suitcase because I like wheels. It makes it a lot easier. That empty suitcase that's living somewhere in your house, take that, load it up, stick it in the back of your car. If all else fails, you can grab it, lean back, drop it on the ground, stand it up, pull the handle out, and walk it with you. And it's going to make carrying things, especially transport of water or anything that gets heavy over distance, much easier. So just one of those suggestions. I'm going to show you a little video of one of between me and my wife, our car kits here in a suitcase. So just want to show that to you here. But again, one additional thing to think about, it's Oregon, it's Pacific Northwest. Consider waterproofing. That can be incredibly important. So here's a little video about our car kits.
All right, so when I talk about car kits, there's plenty of different ways to do it. Backpacks are really common because you can get a backpack just about anywhere. Now, one thing that I always talk about is actually using a suitcase. So this is just my wife's car, and this is usually it's an empty suitcase around our house that we decided to turn into a car kit. And what's great about this is it has wheels. So we can literally pull the kit, tilt back, let it drop to the ground. There we go, it's there. It has wheels, I don't have to carry it, I can wheel it wherever I want. And what's convenient about having this as well is I can pull the water container that we keep in here and put it right on top, and once I tip back and get going, it's just as easy to transport. So this is just one great option for a car kit. We have everything we need in here. We have some shelter, we have food, water's on top. Just makes our lives a lot easier knowing that we have car kits that we can get home, get to our dog, or to each other, and just really easy process to make a kit. Think about what you need to get wherever you need to go. All right, so when we talk about a car kit, and this is just some of the basic things that are in my car kit, as I said, it's really important to think about how far you need to go or what you need to get there. Now, I generally work across the river from where I live, so it's really important to me that I have some waterproof items. So actually I have a little bit of extra clothes, some socks, and some basic things in a waterproof bag here. I have water jugs that are sealed, so I can feel confident about bringing those through water if need be. That water filtration that I showed earlier. Now, I also have a military style blanket that dries pretty quick and is pretty warm. I have a hammock, and I chose this because it's light and I can, if that's the kind of situation we're in, being able to tie this between two cars or two trees and having a bug net, a rain fly, and some shelter, really important for me. Just super light. Toilet paper, always toilet paper. I have a headlamp, which I assume that I'll want my hands free, so having the light coming from my head is useful. Some work gloves, prevent hand injuries, some first aid kit, and then I have a basic cooking kit. So I have a little camp cook kit here, and then I have a fold-out collapsible water basin or sink with some soap and utensils. I have a few other basic things with the purpose of being able to get home or signal other people, but otherwise, this is the fundamentals of the car kit that you should consider.
Well, thank you all very much for joining. I hope these tips help you get prepared, and I hope we never really have to use it. Thank you.